believe your instincts. We human beings are exposed to so much more data that we process. Our algorithms are able to capture very subtle signs that we can describe, but we're still processing them, and it's super valuable.
Alrighty, hello everyone and welcome to the Deal Maker Show. So today we have an amazing founder. We're going to be learning quite a bit, when it comes to building, scaling, financing, also being able to build a business that is really in the financial infrastructure, type of approach. And I mean, what they've done is remarkable because they had to even fire everyone at one point. They ran out of money. Crazy stories that we're going to be sharing. Very inspiring conversation, so brace yourself for it. And without further ado, let's welcome our guest today, Doug Storf. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alejandro. It's a pleasure to be here and share some of those stories.
So give us a walk through memory lane, Doug. Born and raised in Sao Paulo. How was life growing up for you?
Sao Paulo is a huge city, as you know, right? So it's interesting because you get exposed to a lot of different situations. I grew up in a neighborhood. My school was in a different neighborhood, quite far apart, maybe 1 hour away. So that gets me exposed to a number of different situations during my youth, from being with my grandma on evenings and going back to home, playing on the streets during weekends. So quite a fun youth.
That's amazing. Now, obviously, the problem solving has been with you, very early on, whether it was with studying engineering or when it was about, for example, going into consulting, but problem solving has been a big one. So tell us about how was, for you to where did that problem solving, approach and mentality, where does that come from?
Gosh, I think it's always been there. Let me share with you a story, right? So it was at the end of the high school, and I took on a summer job on this firm, and my job was basically there has been a software update, which back in the day was a big thing. We're talking 95, something like that. And somehow on that company, all the zip codes got messed up. So imagine you have like 4,000 addresses of your clients and you get all the zip code messed up. And I was hired to basically look at a zip code database, update the files, and that back and forth. And then I noticed basically what it did is it missed the zeros on the left, right? Very basic software error. So once I realized that, I fixed it using Excel, and in 2 days I had my summer job done, basically. So I started looking for other things to do, and I noticed people were constantly going from their table to the manager's table to use an HP 12C calculator to calculate the payments that some client needed to do. And I said, that's lame. Why everybody has a computer in front of them with an Excel? Why would they have to go there? So I did a very simple template on Excel and installed in everyone's computer so that they could calculate PMT. And I was 15 probably at that time. So I think that the problem-solving mentality has always been with me. And obviously during college when I was studying engineering, that got to a whole different level, because as an engineer, you learn to, once you face a very challenging problem, you simplify that problem as much as you can, right? So a car becomes a single dot, and the whole road from here to Santos becomes a straight line. So you simplify the problem, you try to solve that sliced, simplified problem with the tools that you have, and then you recombine them to perhaps get to the solution of a more complicated problem. And I kept applying this throughout my entire life.
How do you think, for example, consulting, whether it was at Kearney or McKinsey, shaped up the way that you approached problem solving? Because you had it from engineering, but now with consulting, probably it shaped it up a little bit more.
Yeah, so the synthesis and analysis that I just mentioned, they are present both at engineering and at consulting. I think what the difference is and what I learned with consulting is to be hypothesis driven. As an engineer, you tend to think more like a scientist, testing alternatives. And as a consultant, you tend to work more on a hypothesis driven scenario. So you basically come up with the solution and you believe that solution is the right one, and you try to prove they're wrong. Whereas with the engineer, you kind of test different solutions and see which one stick, right?
Now, for you, you did your MBA at Michigan, and then from there, you did a little bit of a rodeo, whether it was working at Google or AWS. Obviously, different AWS now than what it is today, no? But I guess that gave you, some type of comfort to be able to understand what it would, I guess, get more on the operating role with 99, which I think that was quite pivotal for you, especially going through that acquisition with Didi. That was, in fact, the most immediate, step that needed to happen for you to be able to bring Swap to life. I love to hear, what was the sequence of events that happened there, and what you think you needed to really feel the safety or the confidence to be okay with venturing into the unknown with your own business.
I'm not sure I ever got to that point to feel safe, but but let's get there. So at 99, I had an important shock in my career, actually, because I came in as head of corporate strategy, obviously coming from a consulting company, consulting firm like McKinsey, that should have been an easy transition into the operating world. But it was not, because I arrived at 99 with the consultant mindset, and suddenly it felt that all my tool set was not appropriate for the task, because what was needed was actually an operator. Even though I was sitting in a strategic role, the company didn't need anyone doing PowerPoint. It needed someone to take on a real problem and solve it, right? Which is different. The tools that you have as a consultant and as an operator, they're completely different. The pace that you get to the solution are completely different. So when I got there, I spent my initial 6 months or so spinning my wheels. I was like working a lot, putting all my energy, deploying all the tools that I had, and I wasn't getting anything done. And because I didn't know how to get things done. And it was only after the acquisition from Didi that I actually left the strategic role and said, you know what, let me create something real. And that's when I started working on the project of launching 99Pay, a wallet for the ecosystem, that I got into this operator role. That was the pivotal moment in my career when I started learning what being an operator and an entrepreneur in the sort felt like, because I needed to prove my thesis. I needed to sell it to the Chinese people. I needed to, with limited resources, try to get something out of paper. So that's a little bit of what happened there that gave me somehow the confidence. But what made the shift was, it was not really the priority for Didi at that time to launch the wallet. So I was kind of stumbling my head against the wall there, not really getting the traction that I wanted. And at the same time, I was being exposed to the market and seeing that the pain points that I was having trying to launch that product at Didi was the same pain points that a lot of my peers were facing. So kind of it was clear to me that the demand was arising, the market was opening up, and I wasn't finding the right partners. I wasn't finding the right solution, and neither were my peers. So demand was arising, the offer was not there, and the opportunity kind of seemed too big to let pass. It's when you see that huge opportunity and you jump into it, not because you are super confident that you can make it, but just it's too good to let it pass.
So then
That's
what happened
how I
next?
got it.
What happened next, Doc? It sounds like Swap was born and the rest was history. But what happened?
So we basically, that was October 2018, and it was a very good year. 2018 was the year when Didi acquired 99, so that created a lot of momentum in the VC market in Brazil because it was a big exit. So everybody was excited. Me coming out of 99 kind of gave me the credentials to talk to VCs and be a credible potential entrepreneur. So it was not hard to get the first check. In December 2018, we got the first check. It was a pre-seed PowerPoint backed company. And one of those stories, we were pointing one direction, and suddenly we found the gold pot in another direction, right? And I was at the right place at the right time. A friend of mine was also leaving McKinsey to create a company, and we were creating the two companies basically at the same time. And I was able to offer him a solution that changed the market for employee benefits in Brazil. Traditionally, employee benefits in Brazil is done through closed loop solutions. So basically, you create your own card scheme and you have your own network of acceptance. And obviously, it's kind of expensive to at the same time convince all the restaurants to accept a new payment method and convince all the companies that all the restaurants around you already accept that. And because I was coming from 99, a marketplace, I knew how hard stimulating the two sides of the marketplace is. I offered them a solution using open loop cards, basically MasterCard, Visa card scheme, that because that would solve one of the pieces of the equation, right? The acceptance network was already there installed, and it was at the same time the largest entry barrier for this kind of industry in Brazil. So by providing them this, we created a new paradigm of how the benefits are offered, and that's how Swap was actually created and started by offering
So,
the solution for that market.
so in that regard, so that the people listening get it, what ended up being the business model of Swap? How do you guys make money?
So we have built the infrastructure that allows any company. It's a banking as a service, right? In Brazil, banking as a service is more than just the distribution layer between a fintech and a bank. In Brazil, the banking as a service industry evolved in a way where the providers, they build the infrastructure itself. So we have the connections with the central bank, with the connections with the card schemes, the ledger, all the infrastructure that is needed for someone to have a wallet, fully functional and transactioning wallet, and also the licenses. So that's the product below the hood. And the business model is basically we get a take rate on the transacted volume.
Now, you were alluding to it earlier on, you guys getting a check. You guys have raised $30 million What has been the journey too of going through the motions through raising the money as well?
Easy and hard at sometimes. As I mentioned at the beginning, it was really easy. Was a good time in the market. We had good traction in terms of story of the founders. That made it easy, and we also had a potential large initial client. Um, then it became really hard because the market flipped. It was the beginning of the pandemic, pre-pandemic, when we were trying to raise a new series, actually the seed, um, and we couldn't. We didn't have the metrics. We didn't have the product fully deployed. The money was basically running out, and it was the beginning of the pandemic, so nobody knew where the world was going. So it was really, really, really hard to raise money during this period. Then, because of the pandemic, again, in 21, it became really easy once again to raise money. And how crazy the market was back in 2021. And now I think we are recovering. We're starting to see more and more deals happening. But now there is a new challenge called AI, right? If you're not an AI company, it may be hard for you to raise capital again. Luckily, we don't need that anymore. We're profitable and generating cash, so we don't need any new funding just for staying alive. But obviously, any startup at the growth stage has big aspirations to continue to grow, and that might require new funds.
I mean, I remember that that you were talking about it in COVID. That was a pretty tough time where you had to literally fire everyone. The company had to fire everyone. I guess, how do you think that built you up as a founder too?
Look, it was a tough time. Not gonna reduce the impact that having to fire everyone does to you. Imagine you are 10 days into COVID. So basically, you started lockdown. 10 days later, you have to go through Zoom and fire everyone. We were not used to talk to anyone through Zoom, let alone fire anyone through Zoom, right? And if you think about the other side of the screen, nobody knew how to recruit online. Nobody knew what to do in that setup. So it was really hard to see a group of folks that trusted you and that actually bought into the narrative of building this startup being let go at the most delicate period of our generation, right, in terms of human existence and survival. So it was really hard. It was really emotional. We were all friends. Luckily, because nobody had anything to do, we were just locked down. We didn't know what to do. Half of the team accepted the very, very good offer of staying without paycheck and receiving some equity for a broken company. But well, since I don't have anything else to do, let me stay around and try to rebuild this company. That's basically the story and how we managed to navigate that difficult period. What changed was I started respecting capital a lot more. What changed is that I learned that in startup, everything is exponential. Your client acquisition is exponential, your revenue is exponential, your traction is exponential, but your cash burn is also exponential. And it was hard because in December 2019, I had 50% of the money that I have raised in the bank, and in March I had zero. Right, that's how fast costs scale up as well.
Now, in that case too, one of the things about Swap is that you guys need to navigate regulatory changes as well. I guess, how have you guys been able to do that, and what are some of the key learnings from that experience?
I once heard from Condoleezza Rice that the regulator's job is to regulate, right? So they're going to do that no matter what. It's our role to partner with the regulator and make sure that we bring the best quality information for the decision making of the regulator. And I have always, as an engineer, uh, favored the approach of give me the rules and I'll play with the rules, right? And it never occurred to me before Swap to influence the rules. And when you play in a regulated industry, you need to be able to influence the rules, not because you want to steer just to favor you, but the regulator not always have the full picture. It's not on the day to day. It's not seeing the reality of the market. It's the role of the society to instruct the regulator to create the right boundaries and to build a regulation that is at the same time safe for the industry, but is going to promote competition, is going to promote a healthy industry, right? So we have always been very close to the regulator. We wanted to participate in the debates, and we even went on and founded an association for the banking as a service in Brazil, which influenced the regulation that just came out in December last year. It's now getting more and more representativeness in the market. And I always think that mature industries are the ones that are able to create this dialogue between the player, amongst the players, and between players and the regulator.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of vision that is at play, right? Because the vision that you have, and that you guys have for Swap is a vision that people really need to subscribe to, no? Whether it's the investors, like we were talking about, the customers, the employees, or I mean, we saw that, right? With the people that stayed, during COVID days, and then as well, you gotta enroll the regulators to a certain degree as well. No? So I guess to that end, Doug, imagine you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in a world where the vision of Swap is fully realized. What does that world look like?
Well, that's a world where the the population in general has access to good, tailored, efficient financial services through the companies that they interact with, through the employers that employ them, right? This is where we see local ecosystems being built around players that have the legitimacy to build those ecosystems, not just it's not a world where because you are a bank because you're a bank, but it's a world where you provide financial services because you are close to a certain community, to a certain ecosystem, and you are able to deploy products, develop products, and deploy solutions that are really tailored to that ecosystem, providing, making that the solutions are better, they are more efficient, optimizing how capital is allocated and how people receive their money and use their money, creating kind of a circle of prosperity.
I love that. Now, we're talking about the future here, but I want to talk about the past and doing so with a lens of reflection. So, Doc, let's say I bring you back in time and I bring you back where maybe you were thinking about launching something of your own, no? Which ended up becoming Swap. But let's say you're coming out of the offices of Didi. At that point they had acquired 99, and you helped with the transition. And let's say you're able to stop that younger self, that younger dog that is coming out of that building with the excitement, with the uncertainty, of what the next chapter is going to be, and you're able to give that younger dog one piece of advice before launching a business, what would that be and why, given what you know now?
The instincts are there, but sometimes we try to muffle it. We try not to listen to it actively, right? We try to find signs that our instincts are wrong. And what I would tell my younger self is believe your instincts. Somehow, I think we human beings are exposed to so much more data that we process, and our algorithm are able to capture very subtle signs that we can describe, but we're still processing them, and it's super valuable.
I love it. Well, Doc, for the people that are listening that would love to reach out, that would love to learn more about Swap, what can you tell them?
Well, we do have our website, swap.financial. My email is at swap.financial. Please reach out. I would be happy to help you build financial products in Brazil.
Amazing. Love it, Doc. Well, thank you so much for having the time, to really dedicate us. And it's been such an honor to have you on the Dealmaker Show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.